Aurelia 9 floated high above the blue clouds like a shining island of metal and glass. People on the lower levels liked to say the city looked like a giant lantern in the sky, glowing softly at night. For most citizens, life in the floating megacity was busy, rushed, and noisy. But for Jace Marlowe, his favorite part of the day came in the quiet evenings, when he stood on his balcony and watched the lights ripple across the city like waves. Jace was an engineer, one of those calm, patient types who liked machines more than crowds. He enjoyed solving problems, fixing odd devices, and looking for strange patterns in the city's energy grid. His apartment sat on level 47, an area filled with soft wind currents and small floating gardens. It was peaceful, simple, and perfect for someone who liked quiet. He also had a neighbor, a woman who lived in the apartment next to his. Her name was Lyra Venn. Lyra was different. Not in a bad way. Just unusual. She moved quietly, spoke softly, and seemed to appear on her balcony only at odd hours. While most neighbors waved or exchanged a few words, Lyra usually kept to herself. She wasn't unfriendly, just distant, like someone who carried a heavy secret or came from somewhere very far away. Jace didn't mind. He respected distance. Still, he always had the feeling that she watched the sky more than the city, like she was waiting for something or someone. One evening, everything changed. It had been a long day for Jace. The city's power grid had experienced tiny hiccups, short flickers that lasted less than a second but were strange enough to catch his attention. Aurelia 9 almost never flickered. It was famous for its stability. He went outside onto his balcony to clear his head. The breeze was cool, carrying the faint scent of the rooftop gardens above. The sky was a soft purple, and the city lights shimmered like small stars. Then he saw it again, the flicker. The lights along the nearby buildings blinked, just for a moment. Not a normal blink, though. A pulse. As if something was trying to sync with the city's energy system. Jace leaned forward, narrowing his eyes. "That's not right," he muttered. And then he sensed something. A presence. He turned, and there she was, Lyra, standing on her balcony only a few feet away. Her pale silver hair glowed slightly in the city lights, and her eyes looked brighter than usual, reflecting some light he couldn't see. She was staring at him, but not in a worried or curious way. More like she had already expected him to be there. Before he could greet her, she whispered, almost too softly to hear over the wind. "Just tonight. Don't leave your lights on." The sentence slipped across the small space between them like a secret. Jace blinked. What?" Her expression didn't change. She didn't look scared, but she looked alert. Focused. Like someone who was listening to things he couldn't hear. She repeated herself, slightly louder but still gentle. "Just tonight. Keep your apartment dark." Jace stared at her for a long moment, trying to understand if she was joking. The flicker earlier had already made him curious, but now his curiosity doubled. He leaned against the balcony railing, a small smile forming on his face. "Sounds mysterious," he said lightly. "But why just tonight? Why not forever?" He said it as a playful joke. But Lyra reacted in a way he didn't expect. Her eyes widened, not in fear, but in surprise. Something in his words seemed to catch her off guard, like she hadn't planned for that answer. She looked away for a moment, thinking. When she looked back, her face was calm again, but her voice was softer. "Tonight is important," she said. "The city won't feel it the way I do, but something is near, something that looks at patterns. It notices light. If your apartment stays dark, you'll be safe from confusion." Jace blinked slowly. "Safe from confusion?" That was a strange way to warn someone. "Lyra," he said gently, "are you okay? Did something happen?" She didn't answer at first. Instead, she looked up at the sky, not at the stars, but at the thin streams of energy that powered the floating city. Jace knew most people couldn't see the faint energy lines unless they were trained engineers or used special lenses. But Lyra watched them like someone who had been studying them her whole life. After a few seconds, she faced him again. "I'm fine," she said. "But this city isn't. Something old is brushing against it. I just don't want you to draw its attention." Jace wasn't sure whether to laugh or worry. Lyra always spoke in poetic ways, but this felt especially strange. Still, something about her tone, gentle but serious, kept him from brushing it off completely. "So," he said slowly, "you're telling me to turn off all my lights because something old is brushing against the city and likes patterns?" Her lips curved into the faintest smile. "That's close enough," he chuckled. "Lyra, if this is your way of asking me to save energy, you could just say so." "It's not about energy," she whispered. Her voice trembled ever so slightly on the last word. "Not from fear, but from something heavier, like worry mixed with responsibility." Jace hesitated. He could ask more questions, but she didn't seem ready to answer them. And honestly, he didn't want to make her feel pressured. "All right," he said finally. "If it makes you feel better, I'll keep my lights off tonight." She exhaled softly, like a person relieved to hear exactly what they needed. "Thank you," she said, but the conversation didn't end there. Instead of going inside immediately, Jace stayed on his balcony, looking at Lyra with thoughtful eyes. She looked like she wanted to say more, but struggled with the decision. Her fingers tapped the railing lightly. A small, almost nervous gesture. "Lyra," he said, breaking the silence. "You know you can talk to me, right? If something is going on, anything. I'm not going to laugh or judge." Her eyes softened, and for the first time since he met her, she looked human. Not distant, not mysterious, just lonely. "I know," she said quietly, "and that's why I have to be careful." "Careful of what?" he almost asked, but she moved before he could. She stepped back from the railing. "Stay safe tonight, Jace." Then she added, almost like an afterthought, "And please, don't look directly at any strange lights if you see them." He raised an eyebrow. "Strange lights? Lyra, you're making this sound like a sci-fi movie." She hesitated again, another small pause that told him she was choosing her next words carefully. "It's better than saying nothing," she replied. And with that, she slipped back into her apartment, closing the balcony door behind her with a soft click. Jace stood there for a while, staring at the empty balcony. The city hummed softly around him, and the wind stirred the small garden leaves. Everything felt normal, but her words stayed with him. "Don't leave your lights on. Don't look at strange lights. Something old. Something that notices patterns." It all sounded strange. Mysterious. Maybe even a little exciting. Jace wasn't the type to believe in hidden forces or cosmic mysteries, but he also wasn't the type to ignore his neighbor when she looked that serious. So later that night, when he stepped inside, he switched off every light in his apartment. The darkness felt calm. Still, but outside, the sky flickered again just once brighter than before. And this time, Jace felt something he hadn't noticed earlier. The flicker wasn't random. It felt like something was looking back. The night felt alive in Aurelia 9, even though Jace's apartment was completely dark. The city's lights shimmered faintly beyond the windows, and he could hear the hum of energy flowing through the floating towers. But something about the flicker he had seen earlier made him restless. He couldn't ignore it. Not after Lyra's warning. He paced his small living room, his hands running over the edge of the table, the smooth surface of a gadget he had been fixing earlier. His mind raced. Something old. Something that notices patterns. He repeated the words in his head, trying to make sense of them. The city felt bigger. Somehow, more alive than usual, and he had the strange feeling that Lyra wasn't exaggerating. By midnight, curiosity won over caution. He needed to see more, to understand. He grabbed a small flashlight, not for the lights, but as a comfort. Even though he didn't fully believe in mysterious forces, the human mind liked rituals. This was his ritual for stepping into the unknown. Jace left his apartment and crossed the balcony walkway toward Lyra's door. Her apartment was quiet, but the faint glow of something inside caught his eye. Not light from her lamps, but a soft, pulsating glow, almost like a heartbeat. It wasn't dangerous, he was sure of that, but it was different from anything he had ever seen. He knocked softly. "Lyra?" he called. "Are you awake?" The door opened slowly, just enough for her to peek out. Her eyes widened slightly when she saw him. "Jace," she whispered, a small smile forming. "I wasn't expecting visitors tonight. I couldn't sleep," he said, stepping closer. "And, well, you seemed worried earlier. I thought maybe you could explain a little more." She studied him for a moment, then stepped aside. "Come in. But you have to promise you won't touch anything unless I say so." Jace nodded eagerly. The apartment was dimly lit by the soft pulsation from the center of the living room. And there it was. The source of the glow. A floating orb. It hovered in the air like a small moon, its surface shimmering with patterns that reminded Jace of the city's energy grid, but smoother, more fluid. Colors moved through it, like slow streams of water. Blues, purples, and tiny sparks of golden light. Jace's mouth went dry. What is that?" he asked. Lyra took a deep breath. "It's a star. Not a normal star, of course. A tiny, stable one. A pocket star. Something older than this city. Older than most of the technology we have. I've been studying it for years." Jace stepped closer, careful not to reach out. "Studying a star? In your apartment?" She nodded. "Yes. I am part of a research initiative from beyond this world. We observe planets, civilizations, and patterns of thought. Humans are unusual, and this star, it responds to humans differently than anything else." Jace's mind raced. "Responds to humans?" "Yes," Lyra said softly. "It reacts to curiosity, hope, and creativity. And tonight, it has reacted to you." He froze. "Him? Why?" Lyra looked at him, her silver hair falling softly around her shoulders. "I don't know why. I didn't expect it. But the moment you came near, it pulsed brighter. Its energy shifted. I've never seen it react this way before." Jace felt a thrill he couldn't explain. He had always loved patterns, puzzles, machines, but a living star that responded to him? That was beyond anything he had imagined. He stepped closer, still careful. "Is it dangerous?" "Not if you don't provoke it," Lyra said. "But it's powerful. It can sense emotions and intentions. If someone acts recklessly, it could overwhelm them. That's why I warned you to keep your lights off." "Its energy reacts to light, too." Jace nodded, understanding. "So, it's like alive?" "In a way," Lyra said. "It isn't alive like humans, but it responds, it watches, it learns, it remembers." He leaned closer, fascinated by the slow, rhythmic pulsing of the star orb. It was mesmerizing. He felt a warmth in his chest, a quiet happiness he hadn't realized he was missing. Lyra observed him carefully. "It likes your presence," she said. "Not everyone can make it. Notice them." Jace laughed softly, shaking his head in disbelief. "Notice me? I'm just a regular guy. I fix machines and make the occasional joke. Why would it care about me?" She smiled faintly. "Because it senses something different, something uniquely human. It doesn't care about titles, jobs, or technology. It responds to the qualities humans sometimes forget they have. Curiosity, courage, patience, hope." Jace's chest warmed at her words. For a moment, he forgot the strange warnings, the flickers, and the city's hum. He simply looked at the star orb and felt connected. The orb pulsed again, brighter this time, and tiny sparks danced toward him like playful fireflies. He reached out his hand instinctively, but Lyra gently shook her head. "Not yet," she said. "It's testing, not touching. It wants to understand you first. And it will only reveal more when it's ready." Jace pulled back, understanding. "I'll wait. I want to learn more." Lyra's expression softened. "That's why it responds to you. Most humans are afraid. Afraid of the unknown. Afraid of what they cannot control. But you You step forward. Curiosity drives you, even when fear whispers. For a moment, the apartment was silent, except for the soft pulsing of the star. Jace felt a sense of peace wash over him, as if he had entered a quiet room in the universe where nothing could harm him. "Why do you keep it here?" he asked finally. "Because this city is special," she said. "Aurelia 9 has energy patterns unlike any other place in the galaxy. They are stable, strong, and predictable, but sometimes tiny irregularities appear. The star reacts to those irregularities, and I observe, record, and study its behavior." Jace nodded slowly. "So, it's not just a star, it's like a student, and you're the teacher?" She smiled faintly. "In some ways, yes. But it doesn't learn like a student. It grows, adapts, and reacts. And tonight, it seems to want to learn from you." He swallowed hard. "From me? But why?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I've studied it for years, and it has never done this before. Perhaps humans are more important than we realized. Perhaps it has been waiting for someone like you." The idea was almost overwhelming. Jace, a simple engineer from level 47, was suddenly connected to something older and greater than the city. Older than his imagination. Older than he could even describe. The star pulsed again, and this time it felt warmer, closer, like it was acknowledging him personally. He could feel the energy brushing against him, not dangerous, but alive. Jace looked at Lyra. "So, what do we do now?" She hesitated, then said softly, "We wait. We watch. And we see what it chooses to show us. Tonight is only the beginning." A shiver of excitement ran through him. Tonight, only the beginning. For the rest of the night, Jace and Lyra watched the star orb together. She explained how it reacted to energy patterns, how it recorded motion, how it could reflect human emotions in ways no one had fully understood. He listened carefully, amazed at her knowledge, at the depth of the universe she carried quietly in her apartment. As hours passed, Jace realized something important. The city outside, the hum of machines, the flickering lights, all of it seemed small, almost trivial. Inside this apartment, with this strange star and this mysterious woman, he had discovered something truly extraordinary. Something beyond machines, beyond energy, beyond the floating towers of Aurelia 9, something alive in the universe, and it had noticed him. Jace didn't realize it at the time, but that night marked the first step into a much larger adventure, one that would challenge his understanding of humanity, of the universe, and of what it meant to connect with something far older than himself. For now, though, he simply stayed, watching the star pulse in time with his own heartbeat, a quiet smile forming on his face. And Lyra, observing him carefully, seemed to wonder if perhaps, tonight, the star had chosen not only to study him, but to trust him. And maybe, just maybe, Jace Marlowe was ready. The next morning, Aurelia 9 looked calm and ordinary, as if nothing had happened. The floating city hummed gently, the soft sunlight reflecting off the glass towers, and people moved about their daily routines. But inside Lyra's apartment, things felt far from ordinary. Jace woke early, feeling a strange mix of excitement and nervousness. He had slept poorly, not because he was afraid, but because his mind kept replaying the night before. The star orb, its pulsating light, the way it seemed to acknowledge him. He couldn't get the thought out of his head that he wasn't just observing it, he was part of something bigger now. Lyra was already awake. She sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes half closed, her hands hovering near the orb as it floated quietly. The star's glow was softer in the morning, but its energy was still alive, like it was breathing. "Good morning," Jace said, trying to sound casual. Lyra opened her eyes slowly and gave a faint smile. "Good morning. You slept?" "Not much," he admitted. "I kept thinking about last night." "About everything," she nodded. "I expected you to." There was a pause, and then she said softly, The star has been active since you arrived. I didn't know it could react so strongly to a human. Jace frowned. So, it's like, it's choosing me? In a way, Lyra said. It's testing you, seeing if you can handle what comes next. Stars like this don't just reveal themselves to anyone. They watch, they measure, they decide. He took a careful step closer. Decide what? Lyra hesitated, looking at the orb. Decide if they can trust you. Decide if they can share knowledge. Decide if you are ready to become part of something greater than yourself. Jace's heart beat faster. Part of him wanted to back away. This was no longer about curiosity or patterns, it was about being chosen by something older than humanity. And yet, another part of him felt a deep excitement. I want to be ready, he said firmly. Lyra studied him for a long moment, her eyes searching. You may not realize it, but that desire alone is what it looks for. Most humans hesitate. Most are afraid of responsibility, afraid of what they cannot control. You step forward. The star pulsed brighter, and tiny sparks floated around it like dust in sunlight. They drifted toward Jace, brushing his arms gently. The sensation was unlike anything he had felt before. Soft, warm, almost like encouragement. It likes me, he whispered. Lyra shook her head slightly, smiling. It doesn't like in the way humans understand. It recognizes, it tests, it measures your qualities, curiosity, patience, courage, hope. If it senses them in you, it responds. Jace blinked. And if it doesn't, then it remains silent, Lyra said. Or it reacts differently. Some humans can't even stand near it without feeling overwhelmed. You are different. He swallowed hard, his excitement tinged with fear. Different? How? It recognizes humanity, she said softly. Your qualities, your potential. Most stars do not notice humans. But this one, it sees more than you think. It may even learn from you. Jace felt a shiver run down his spine. The idea that he, a single human among billions, could influence something so ancient and vast, it was overwhelming. Yet it filled him with pride, hope, and purpose. For hours, they watched the star together. Lyra explained its movements, the subtle shifts in light, and the way it responded to patterns in energy. Sometimes it pulsed faster when Jace moved or spoke. Sometimes it flickered with tiny golden sparks that seemed almost like laughter. You can't touch it yet, Lyra said. But it's reaching toward you in other ways. Observe, feel, understand. That is enough for now, Jace nodded, letting the words sink in. And he did observe. He noticed how it changed with his emotions, how it mirrored small movements, how it seemed almost alive. Hours passed, and the city outside moved through its usual routines. But inside the apartment, time felt different. It stretched, slowed, and carried a quiet intensity. Jace realized that he was learning not just about the star, but about himself. What does it want from me? He asked softly. Lyra hesitated, her gaze never leaving the orb. It wants understanding. It wants to see how humanity behaves when faced with the unknown. How we react to wonder, hope, curiosity, and trust. And, do you think it can learn from me? She nodded slowly. I think it has already started. A sudden pulse of light from the star made the entire room glow softly. Sparks floated upward like tiny fireworks, and Jace felt the warmth wash over him again. This time, it felt stronger, more intentional. It's reacting to me directly, he whispered. Yes, Lyra said, her voice quiet. And it is deciding. It may reveal more than you expect, but you must be ready for responsibility. Being chosen by something like this, it is not a game. It is a duty. Jace felt a mixture of pride and nervousness. He had always wanted to make a difference, but he had never imagined it like this. Not standing in a quiet apartment in Aurelia 9, watched by a tiny, ancient star that seemed to see everything about him. For a moment, he thought of the city outside the crowded streets, the glowing towers, the ordinary people who moved without noticing anything extraordinary, and he realized something important. Humanity was small, fragile, and unaware of how connected it could be to the universe. The star orb pulsed again, almost like a heartbeat, and Jace felt it as clearly as if it were inside his chest. "I think it wants me to do something," he said, more to himself than to Lyra. Lyra nodded. "It does. But not yet. It wants you to prepare first. Observe, learn, and understand. Only when it decides you are ready will it reveal the next step." Jace took a deep breath. Next step? Like what? Like crossing into understanding, beyond the city, beyond humanity. Lyra said softly. "It will show you things that most humans cannot see. But only if it trusts you completely." Jace's mind whirled. Could he really do this? Could he be ready for something that even Lyra seemed unsure of? And then, quietly, he realized, he wanted to. He wanted to be ready. He wanted to understand. He wanted to connect. To learn. To be part of something larger than himself. The star pulsed once more. Golden sparks rising and dancing toward him. He reached out his hand instinctively, feeling the warmth brush against his skin. It was not dangerous. It was inviting. Lyra watched him carefully, her expression softening. "That's all it asks for. Now your willingness, your presence. It measures your qualities through your actions and choices. And tonight, it will test you further." Jace nodded. "Then, I'll be ready." The sun rose higher, and the city outside hummed with life. But inside the apartment, Jace and Lyra stayed near the star. They did not speak much. Words were unnecessary. The silence carried meaning. The star pulsed, observed, and waited. As the morning light filled the room, Jace realized something else. This was no longer just about curiosity or fascination. It was about trust. Trust between him, Lyra, and something far older than either of them. And for the first time, he felt a deep connection not just to the star, but to humanity itself. Humans were small, fragile, and often unaware, but they were capable of wonder, of courage, and of hope. And this star had chosen to notice him because of those qualities. It was the first step, the first test, and Jace Marlowe was ready to take it. The evening settled softly over Aurelia 9, bathing the city in a pale lavender light. From level 47, the floating towers shimmered like glass candles, and the gentle hum of energy echoed in every corner. Inside Lyra's apartment, however, the glow of the star orb made everything feel magical and alive. Jace sat quietly, watching the star pulse in response to his presence. The tiny sparks floated toward him, brushing his arms and shoulders with warmth. He could hardly believe he was here, in this strange, glowing room, learning from a star that was older than the city itself. Lyra stood nearby, observing him carefully. She had never seen it respond so strongly to any human before. Most people, frightened easily, distracted by fear, doubt, or impatience. But Jace, he seemed calm, fascinated, and full of genuine curiosity. That combination made the star consider him differently. The moment felt fragile, precious. Lyra had warned him earlier not to let the lights shine, not to attract attention. She had whispered, "Just tonight," as a way to keep him safe. Yet now, watching him, she realized that just tonight might never be enough. A soft knock at her door startled them both. "Lyra?" a voice called outside. It was firm, polite, but carried authority. She glanced at Jace and then back at the door. "They're here," she said quietly. Jace frowned. "Who's here?" "They," she repeated. "My supervisors. They monitor the star from afar. They do not usually come in person. But tonight, they felt its activity. And now, they want me to return it to the research station." Jace's stomach tightened. "Return it?" You mean, take it away? Yes, Lyra said, her voice calm but tight. If I follow their instructions, they will remove the star. I won't have a choice. And once it leaves, you may never see it again. Not like this. Jace's heart raced. He had felt a connection to the star, and now it was at risk of being taken away. But he also knew that Lyra was under pressure. She had obligations he could not ignore. What can we do? He asked, trying to stay calm. Lyra sighed. We wait a little longer. And we act carefully. They will only take it if they are certain it cannot bond with anyone else. But, she hesitated, searching his face. Tonight, I think it has chosen you. Jace blinked. Me? Chosen me? Yes, Lyra whispered. The star reacts to you. Not just because you are near, but because of how you act, how you think, how you feel. Most humans cannot reach this point. But you are different. A thrill ran through him. And yet, a wave of responsibility followed. He was not just watching the star anymore, he was part of its decision. And if he failed, it might never connect with a human again. The star pulsed brighter, almost as if it understood his thoughts. Sparks floated toward him, tiny motes of light that hovered in the air. He reached out slowly, but Lyra's hand rested gently on his arm. Not yet, she said. Let it choose when to respond fully. We are observers now, not actors. Jace nodded. He could wait. He had patience. And he wanted to understand. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by the soft hum of energy from the city below. Then Lyra spoke, her voice quiet but firm. I have to tell you something, she said. If they take the star, I cannot stay. My role is tied to its observation. Without it, I return to their station. And I do not want to leave. Not now, not ever. Jace looked at her, realizing the depth of her feelings. She had devoted years to observing this star, living alone, carrying a secret that no one in the city could understand. And now, she was facing a choice. Obey her superiors, or stay in a place where she had found connection. Connection to humanity, to the star, and to him. He stepped closer. Lyra, you don't have to make that choice alone. She shook her head. I do. It's my duty. I cannot force them to accept anything else. And you are already involved. I warned you. Just tonight, Jace smiled gently. Or maybe forever, he said softly. Her eyes widened slightly. That small joke, that small smile, something shifted. For a moment, she allowed herself to imagine it. Maybe the star, maybe the city, maybe even fate itself, could allow forever. Outside, a soft humming sound began different from the city's usual hum. It vibrated through the apartment, through Jace's chest, and through the star itself. The orb brightened, sending streaks of golden sparks across the room. It was a sign, an acknowledgement that it had chosen, that it had decided to respond. They know, Lyra whispered. My supervisors know the star is active. They will arrive soon. And then, she trailed off, uncertainty flickering in her eyes. Jace placed his hand over hers. Then we face them together. Whatever happens, we act together. Her gaze softened. You understand? This is not just about us. If they take the star, it could be lost to humanity forever. And if we act, we must act carefully. One wrong move. And then we won't make a wrong move, Jace said firmly. We have the star's trust. That's enough to guide us. She looked at him, a faint smile breaking through. You're braver than you realize. And maybe that is why it responds to you. You do not seek power. You do not seek fame. You simply care. And that is rare. Jace felt warmth in his chest. He had never considered himself particularly brave. But standing here, With the star pulsing beside him, he realized bravery was not about fighting or risking danger. It was about caring, understanding, and being willing to act when it mattered most. The door to the apartment buzzed softly, a signal from the city's security systems. Lyra tensed. The supervisors were preparing to arrive. "Now," she whispered. "Now it tests you fully." The star pulsed, brighter than ever. Sparks danced like tiny flames around Jace, brushing his skin with warmth. He felt a connection. Not just to the star, but to something larger, the universe itself. Watching, waiting, judging, and responding. He focused on the feeling of trust, of hope, and of understanding. Slowly, he extended his hands toward the orb. It hovered closer, responding to his energy, his intentions, his care. "Steady," Lyra said softly. "Do not rush. Let it guide you." The room glowed. The walls reflected waves of color, soft blues and golds and purples. The air felt alive. And then, as if hearing their unspoken agreement, the star's glow focused on Jace, brighter than it had ever been. Outside, a shadow passed. The supervisors had arrived. But inside, nothing could touch the connection forming between human and star. It was an unspoken bond, a decision made not by orders or rules, but by recognition, by understanding, by choice. Jace looked at Lyra. "I think we can do this. Together." Her eyes glistened with emotion. "Together," she whispered. And in that moment, she realized something important. The whisper of, "just tonight," was no longer enough. It had always been meant to keep him safe. But now, she understood the star had chosen, humanity had reached out, and maybe, forever was possible. The hum of the city outside continued, unaware. But inside the apartment, time felt infinite. The star pulsed, and the sparks danced, reflecting a promise that whatever came next, it would be faced together. Jace, Lyra, and the universe itself. It was a moment of decision, and for the first time, Lyra felt that she didn't have to make it alone. The night stretched on, luminous and quiet. Outside, Aurelia 9's towers shimmered like distant stars. Inside, two humans and a tiny ancient star shared a bond that would change everything. And in the quiet, glowing room, Lyra whispered once more, "Just tonight was never enough." Jace smiled. "Or maybe, forever." The star pulsed again, bright and steady, as if acknowledging the words, as if the universe itself had agreed. And for the first time, Lyra believed it. The night sky over Aurelia 9 was alive with soft light, the city below humming quietly as if it knew something extraordinary was about to happen. On level 47, Lyra's apartment glowed from the gentle pulses of the star orb, which hovered steadily in the center of the room. The golden sparks danced like tiny stars, reflecting the warmth and anticipation in the room. Jace and Lyra stood side by side, their hands brushing occasionally, sharing quiet confidence. Outside, a quiet hum signaled the arrival of her supervisors, sent by the distant research station. They were coming to reclaim the star and return it to their control, unaware of the unique bond forming inside the apartment. "They're close," Lyra whispered, glancing at the faintly glowing panel near the door. "We have only a few minutes," Jace nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. But unlike earlier nights, he felt calm. He understood now that the star was not something to fear. It responded to intent, to care, and to curiosity. And tonight, it seemed ready to make a choice. Lyra stepped closer to the star orb, her eyes reflecting its light. "It knows," she said softly. "It knows we are ready." Jace looked at her, surprised. "It knows?" "Yes," she said. "It has been watching us, measuring us. It is deciding whether we can be trusted not just to observe, but to connect, to understand, and to share its knowledge with humanity." A soft pulse ran through the room. The star's light brightened, flowing around them like liquid gold. Jace felt it brush his skin, warm and gentle, as though it were testing him, welcoming him and acknowledging his presence all at once. Suddenly, a small panel on the wall beeped, signaling the supervisor's arrival. Lyra took a deep breath. "This is it," she whispered. Jace nodded. "We do it together." The door slid open silently, revealing two figures dressed in shimmering suits, their expressions calm and professional. They regarded the star orb, their eyes narrowing slightly as they saw it pulsing in Jace's presence. "Lyra Ven," one of them said in a measured tone. "The station has ordered the retrieval of the field object. Please, step aside." She shook her head slightly. "I cannot," she said firmly. "Not tonight." The supervisor's brow furrowed. "It has been determined that the subject cannot remain outside the controlled environment. You must comply." Jace stepped forward gently. "Excuse me," he said, his voice steady. "I understand your orders. But this star, it has chosen to respond to humans. It's not just an object to control. It can teach, connect, and grow with us. And it has chosen me." The two supervisors exchanged glances, their professional expressions showing curiosity mixed with caution. "Chosen you?" the other asked. "Explain." Jace took a deep breath, feeling the star's warm pulses brushing against his hands. "It reacts to qualities humans often forget we have. Curiosity, courage, hope, patience. It measures intent and understanding. Tonight, it has connected with us, me, and Lyra. And if you take it now, it could never bond with humanity again. But if we are allowed to continue, it could be a breakthrough for everyone." The supervisors studied the star, which glowed steadily, responding to his words as if affirming them. Sparks danced toward Jace, brushing lightly against his arms. Almost like a gentle nod, Lyra spoke softly. "I have observed it for years. This is the first time it has reacted to a human this way. It trusts him. And we cannot ignore that. It is not safe or right to take it by force." The room fell silent, except for the soft hum of the city and the gentle pulsing of the star. Time seemed to stretch, the tension almost unbearable. And then, a subtle shift occurred. The star orb brightened dramatically, sending a stream of golden light toward Jace. It hovered near his chest, then slowly, gently, expanded its glow to touch Lyra's hand as well. The supervisors watched in astonishment as the light formed a gentle bridge between them, soft, yet unbreakable. "It has chosen," Lyra whispered, awe in her voice. "It has decided. And it has chosen humanity." Jace felt the warmth spread through him, not just physically, but emotionally. He felt a connection to the star, to Lyra, and to the larger universe. It was a bond of trust and understanding, fragile but unbreakable. The supervisors stepped back, their expressions a mix of surprise and respect. One of them spoke slowly, carefully. "It seems the star recognizes your presence. This has never happened before. Your connection, it is unprecedented." "Yes," Jace said softly. "And it can continue to teach, to grow, and to help humanity if we are allowed to stay together." Lyra looked at the supervisors. "We are willing to comply with your safety protocols, but we cannot remove it. Not tonight. Not ever, if it chooses to stay with humans." The supervisors were silent for a moment. Then the first one nodded. "It appears the bond is stable. The object's response cannot be forced without breaking it. We will allow it. Under observation, you may continue your study on Aurelia 9, with this human as your liaison." Jace blinked. I can do that?" "Yes," Lyra said softly, her voice filled with relief. "We can do this, together." The star pulsed brighter, sending waves of golden sparks into the room. Jace could feel it. This was acceptance, acknowledgement, and trust, all at once. He reached out to Lyra, taking her hand gently. "Together," he said. "Together," she replied. The supervisors stepped back, allowing them space. The star's light flowed around the room like gentle water, reflecting off the walls, the ceiling, and their faces. It was quiet, warm, and alive. For the first time, Lyra allowed herself to imagine what this could mean not just for the research station, but for humanity. A tiny star, older than the city, had chosen to bond with humans, and through Jace, it would learn, grow, and maybe even guide the human race toward understanding the universe in ways no one had imagined. Jace looked at the star, then at Lyra. "So, this is it," he said quietly. "Our adventure begins here." "Yes," Lyra whispered. "And this time, forever is possible." The room glowed steadily as the night continued. Outside, Aurelia 9 moved through its nightly rhythm, unaware of the extraordinary bond forming in Lyra's apartment. But inside, 2 humans and a tiny ancient star had changed the course of their lives, and perhaps, one day, the course of humanity. Jace smiled, feeling the warmth of the star against his chest. "I think I understand now," he said softly. "It's not just about curiosity or study. It's about connection, about trust, about care. That's what makes humans special." Lyra looked at him, her eyes glistening. "Yes. And that is why it responded to you. Not because of what you can do, but because of who you are." He took her hand, holding it gently. "Then we'll face whatever comes next together. With it, with us, and with humanity." The star pulsed again, brighter than ever, as if confirming their words, echoing their promise. Sparks floated around them like tiny stars, filling the room with warmth and light. For a moment, the world outside seemed distant, small, and unimportant. Inside the apartment, there was only trust, hope, and understanding, the quiet realization that they were now part of something greater. And in that golden glow, Lyra whispered softly, "Just tonight was never enough." Jace smiled, repeating the words that had begun their journey together. "Or maybe, forever." The star pulsed in response, steady and strong, a silent affirmation. And for the first time, Lyra believed it truly could be forever. Outside, Aurelia 9's towers reflected the soft lavender light of the night sky. Inside, a tiny ancient star glowed gently. 2 humans stood hand in hand, and a quiet, eternal bond began, one that would carry them, their knowledge, and their hope into the future. And so, forever began. At the threshold of the stars,